Welcome back to Made for More. I am your host, Holly J. Moore. Today, we're doing a very super special episode of Made for More on prenups because, Aaron, why the heck did Bennifer not have a prenup? I'm not kidding. Why?
That you caught me off guard there. I wasn't sure.
Sorry.
You just you're yelling at me. This is why they needed a prenup.
I'm sorry, but
No.
why?
Now here's the thing. I just always assume that all these celebrity couples have prenups because they have so many lawyers, so many agents, so many this, that, and the other.
Right.
Why would you not want to spell out ahead of time how it all gets divided? Assigned?
It's because her love don't cost a thing. But I don't know. I mean, I've done prenups for celebrities. I've done prenups for professional athletes, high profile people. And I'll tell you, I think every single time the person that reaches out to me is their manager, is their agent. It's the people on their team that are looking out for them. So I really cannot imagine in what universe no one on either of their team, made this happen. They didn't make it happen, and they've both been married before. Like, it's very strange. Now,
let's answer that question about why would they not, other than just arrogance or just thinking that that's for everybody else. We don't need one because we're awesome, and this is going to be for real this time.
I mean, okay, so let me just issue this caveat. There could be a prenup that we don't know about. And that, to me, would actually make the most sense. But I don't think there is because usually you would mention that in the very first filing and possibly it would have been leaked or been put out by now. So, but to me, that would be the scenario that makes the most sense.
Okay.
The next scenario, the only other thing I can think of is they were freaking out of their minds. I mean, truly, that is all I can think of. I saw that Ben had engraved on her ring something like, "I'm not ever going anywhere," or something like that.
Okay.
So, I mean, but the level of naivete to think we don't need a prenup because this is going to last forever, I can't. The math isn't mathing.
Okay, so let's back up a little bit here because I think if we're going to do an episode like this on prenups, we first need to explain what a prenup is.
Yes, great question.
Just back to basics. Take me back to Tort Law 101. No, I don't even know if that's correct.
It is not correct.
Okay, well that's why I need to go to school here.
Yeah.
So
right.
take me to law school. Prenup 101.
Take me to church. Okay. So,
wow, 2 songs in one episode.
I know.
We're not looking for a copyright strike or anything.
I got more in me.
Okay.
I mean,
all right.
You just wait.
Okay.
So, prenups 101. Here's the deal. Getting married in California or any state, if you divorce, you're going to be subject to the laws of that state. So, California, we are a community property state. It basically means anything acquired during marriage, assets or debts, is going to be split 50-50. Some people, they're like, okay, got it. Those are the rules of the game. I don't like those rules because of whatever reasons. Maybe I already have some assets and I don't want the other person to ever be able to get their hands on them. Maybe I have business partners that don't really want to be mixing up our business interests with now you're married to somebody. There's a bunch of different reasons why people would decide, I don't like the rules of that game that California has prescribed for me. I want to deviate from those rules. The way you deviate is with a prenup. So basically, it's like deciding your own fate versus having California decide it for you.
This might be a silly question, though. Is there only a prenup? What if you just want to get married quickly, don't want to deal with, a prenup's going to take 16 months to figure out or something like that? Is there something you can do after?
You can do a postnup, which is a prenup, but you do it after you're married. And there's some nuances there, but we don't need to really get into them. But yes, you could do a postnup.
How long does a prenup take? I just threw out 16 months there, but how long might the average prenup take? So factoring that in to the whole wedding timeline.
Yeah. Well, here's what I can tell you. Because I mean, for me to literally draft a prenup is one thing, but then the negotiation process is like a different thing. But what I will tell you is most people come to us at the very possible last minute, which if you're watching this needing a prenup, please don't do that. I'll get to when the best time is to do a prenup. But most people come to us like at the last minute, which is usually like 15 days before a wedding.
Oh my gosh.
So most of the prenups I do are like soup to nuts, done within basically a week.
But that's not ideal.
That is not ideal. The reason, so let's talk about what is ideal. That is definitely not ideal. Everybody just get that into your mind. That's not ideal. What would be ideal is literally before you even set the wedding date. Because, and, it really pains me and confuses me why people would spend, $100,000 on a wedding and a year of planning and go to cake tastings and dress fittings and all these things and not look at this very critical piece of joining lives together. But for whatever reason, they don't. But that should really be a priority. Like literally before you set a wedding date, you should start talking about a prenup and looking at getting a prenup done.
Okay, let's go to prenup 102.
Yes.
Now, why do I need a prenup if California has already decided, okay, let's do 50-50? That sounds good to me. What's the big deal?
Okay, the question I wanted you to ask is why is it ideal to do it before the wedding date?
Oh, okay, yes.
I was going to be like, Aaron, I'm so glad you asked, but then you asked the wrong question.
Okay, Holly, tell me, but why do I need to figure out the prenup before the wedding date?
Because, the main thing about prenups is enforceability. People may have heard like, oh, prenups always get thrown out. My prenups never get thrown out. But a lot of prenups do get thrown out because attorneys don't truly understand what matters in doing them. Everybody gets so bogged down in what you write in the document, but what really matters in terms of enforceability is the circumstances under which it was executed. So, and it's all about voluntariness. The court has to find that both people completely entered into this agreement, this contract voluntarily. Like there was no pressures to do that.
Okay.
So let's just think about two different scenarios. Let's say under scenario number 1, no wedding date has set. The girl has not bought her dress. No wedding venue has been secured. No deposits have been paid. You just got married. You know how all this works, right?
Yes.
Like no invitations have been sent out. You're not worried about 400 of your closest friends like already having those hand-printed invitations with an RSVP. Yes, we're coming to see you get married. None of that stuff has happened. You do the prenup and both people sign it and okay, cool. Now we're going to go now we're going to plan all the weddings. Okay. That is an easy they both probably wanted to enter into that agreement, because of the mutual benefit to both of them. Okay, contrast that with scenario 2. You are 2 weeks out from the wedding. 400 of your closest friends have hand-printed invitations that they have RSVP'd. They will be coming to watch you get married. You have, who knows, $20,000, $50,000 of deposits out at various venues, DJs, caterers, photographers, the whole drill. You've tasted the cake, you've fitted the dress, like all the things. Now, if your partner puts a prenup in front of you and is like, you either sign this or there's no wedding,
ooh,
it's very humiliating to call off that wedding. And so that can be looked at as the person entered into it involuntarily. So that's why timing is so critical, and it truly does matter. The first thing I ask a prenup client is like, tell me about the wedding. And they kind of look at me like, okay, like I'm paying you all this money and you're just nosy about my wedding. Mm-hmm. I'm like, no, it truly matters legally, the details about your wedding. Because then we also have scenario 3 where let's say 2 weeks prior to the wedding, they're shoving the prenup in your face saying, please sign it. But the wedding is you're going to both leave work on lunch in your work clothes. You're going down to the courthouse. Your neighbor's going to witness it. Like that's also a very different scenario because if you're like, no, I'm not signing it or I want to negotiate the terms. Okay, we won't go to the courthouse in 2 weeks. We'll go in 3 weeks. We'll go in 3 months. It's a very different landscape.
Now, you have represented, as you mentioned, lots of high-profile clients who have a lot of assets, whether it's property or,
Yes.
retirement, all the things. Are those the only people you would recommend to get a prenup? Like if I just have a few bank accounts or something like that between us, do we really need that?
So here's my take on it is, one, everyone thinks prenups are really important for what you already have. And yes, we can really hone in on the things you already have and make sure everything you already have prior to the marriage is protected. But the true value of a prenup is deciding what the things in the future that you might acquire, how are we going to handle those? And so to that extent, I would say like lots of people should have a prenup. But the other aspect of it is, even if you end up not actually signing a prenup, the process and the journey of talking about the prenup, what goes into the prenup, what doesn't go into the prenup, what would we agree to, what would we not agree to, that is a conversation everyone should be having before getting married. So I say, even if you like aren't even going to, even if you think no matter what, I am not signing a prenup for whatever reason, you should still literally have the conversation of a prenup to figure out, okay, where do we stand? What would we agree to? Because it really also does provide a lot of clarity on what's going to happen during the marriage and where any potential issues or disagreements or like not being on the same page, it's really going to highlight that, which is going to be really good for the relationship.
Let's bring it back to Bennifer and the idea, okay, let's say they have no prenup. Can their divorce be anything but messy because of that?
Well, it depends on how you define messy. If messy means the same thing as contentious, like they could definitely have an amicable divorce.
Okay.
In terms of like emotionally. But if messy means like unraveling the financial commingling that occurs even during a short marriage, especially with people of that caliber in terms of their financial assets, they probably have some pretty complex financial structures in place to minimize tax liability and things like that. That's going to be complicated to unravel without a prenup. And probably one person is really going to hate the result.
Now, if let's say here they have no joint accounts, can they just walk away and just say, okay, you take yours, I'll take mine, see you later?
Yes, they could come to an agreement, like a mutual agreement to do whatever they want to do. Yes, they actually could come to an agreement. But the thing about a prenup is you get to have the conversation of how you would agree and both walk away in an amicable way when you still love each other and respect each other and are able to sort of have this conversation without a lot of water under the bridge, theoretically without a lot of hurt, resentment, things like that. That's a much different conversation than now you're looking at divorcing. Obviously, things are probably not great between them, otherwise they wouldn't be divorcing. Mm-hmm. And now you're trying to just like come to an amicable agreement. And I mean, it's just such a different dynamic.
Strange question. One of them calls you up for advice and or counsel. Mm-hmm. Which one would you want to call you up?
Oh, definitely Ben.
Why? Wait, really?
Yes.
Why?
Because women are too emotional.
Okay.
Women tend to be spiteful and vindictive, and they tend to want to use the legal process as a game more than like a mechanism to get to the next chapter of their life. Men, and of course this is totally stereotypical, like there's an exception to every rule, but men mostly want to like get in and get out with the least amount of damage to the other person, to themselves, to the family unit as a whole, to their finances, and that's my jam.
I have it on good authority. Ben Affleck is watching this video right now. I want you to look into that camera right there. I want you to pitch. It's not even 30 seconds. I think he has less than 30 seconds to ride this elevator to the top, and you're pitching him why he should hire you or what he should do next? Put you on the spot there.
I know. I'm sure he has excellent legal counsel that is, consulting him every step of the way.
But then they call you and say, Holly, what should we do next?
Well, I mean, with representing high profile people, you're literally doing two cases. You're doing the public case, the press, you're doing damage control with how the public perceives it, and you're also doing the legal case. And that's always a challenge to kind of marry the two, because sometimes what's best for the public and the press is not the same thing that's best for the legal case. But I mean, generally speaking, like, he needs to just get in and out of this thing as quickly and painlessly as possible with, the least amount of like press damage.
Because her love might cost a thing.
It might cost a lot of things, yes. I've got just a little bit more to say, and only because I forgot to say it. And this is one of the most important things that I want everybody to know. Did you know that people that have a prenup are more likely to stay married?
What?
Oh, I thought we were just going to cut. Yes, it's true. It's true. But I think it goes back to the fact that just the exercise of doing the prenup requires you to have the difficult conversations. And there are times when I've had clients and I'm like, okay, we need to talk about what's going in, what's staying out, what are the terms, this, that, the other. And I can tell they're like, I'm scared to talk to my partner about that, or they don't want to disclose all their assets that they own at that time, which is a requirement of the prenup. And I'm like, okay, why do you seem like you're reluctant to disclose? Disclosing protects you. And they're like, I don't know that I really want them to know. I don't want them to kind of like get dollar signs in their eyes. And it's like, okay, red flag, like that, those are things that have to be addressed up front prior to the marriage. So I really believe in my heart of hearts that just having the conversation that the prenup requires you to have is so good for the relationship that everybody should at least just have the conversation.